So now, as you know, the program is about you, young people, and the change you're going to create. You are already creating in your communities. And in every session, we'll bring you examples of youth climate advocates and the projects they're working on. So you could be inspired, you could join forces, or just learn from one another. So now I'm thrilled to introduce Will Charouhis, who is an FXB climate champion. FXB climate champions are inspiring young people who have a demonstrated commitment to sustainability and climate action. FXB climate champions commit to increasing participation in the FXB Climate Advocates program. They provide guidance for student program selection, and they help FXB access additional opportunities to spread climate advocacy and amplify youth voice. So with great honor, I'm going to introduce Will Charouhis, who is 17 years old and is from Miami, Florida, in the United States. Will serves as the national youth leader in Dr. Jane Goodall's Institute. He's also the youth delegate for National Wildlife Federation and America is All In. Will started his own organization, Forces of Nature, that he'll tell you about, and it's the youngest organization accredited by the United Nations Environmental Program and the UNFCCC. Will has already presented at COP25 in Madrid and at COP26 in Glasgow as the youngest American to present in these venues. And he has received numerous awards, such as the Congressional Award Gold Medal for STEM recognition, the Barron Environmental Prize for his mangrove conservation work, and he was recognized as a young social impact hero. So thank you so much, Will. Over to you. Let's see. Welcome, Will. Thank you so much.
Marina, thank you so much for that introduction.
Yeah, thank you. I made you co-host, so you're good.
Here, sorry, can you give me 1 second?
Yeah, Will is currently in California, which is 3 hours earlier than the Eastern time. So it's a little bit early for him, but he made the time to speak to us. So thank you, Will.
Oh, here. Okay, sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Will Charouhis. I'm a 17-year-old student from Miami, Florida, and my hobbies include rowing crew, fishing, and freediving. So in Miami, Florida, these are already impacted by climate change. This led me to create my own nonprofit organization back in 2018 called We Are Forces of Nature, which is a youth-led organization aiming to halt climate change. I've grown up in Miami, Florida. So I'm used to storms and hurricanes. But recent global warming has been making the flooding worse. My city sits at 4 feet above sea level, so it is now known as ground zero facing sea level rise, as you guys can see in this picture. Our city is expected to be uninhabitable by the year 2070 due to coastal erosion and flooding. So I started my own NGO with 3 goals. My first goal was to speak to world leaders to implore them to enact policy to halt climate change. Initially, many of my projects were focused around advocacy, and I had the opportunity to travel the world with climate conferences in Madrid, Spain, and in Glasgow, Scotland, and soon I will travel to Dubai for COP28. At COP26, one of the leaders I had a chance to speak with was Dr. Goodall. It was an amazing opportunity to discuss the problem of climate change and her solution of planting trees. My second goal was to educate youth on the crisis. And for this reason, I also work as one of the directors of Miami's annual Youth Climate Summit. Unfortunately, as some of you may know, around 2 years ago, a condominium in my neighborhood collapsed. And upon later research, it was discovered that this collapse was due in part to flooding from sea level rise. I knew that my goals of advocacy and education were not enough. Over 100 of my neighbors died in that collapse last summer. So that led me to take on a third goal, which was to take action. This led me to start a project called A Million Mangroves, halting climate change one root at a time. Human development and global warming causing sea level rise have left a coast that looks like this. But restoring mangroves will protect our coastlines against erosion, and they will also provide a home for our life-sustaining marine ecosystem. And they are one of our fastest growing trees, which can absorb carbon better than almost any other type of forest. So my goal with this project is to restore our coastlines. I'm doing this by cleaning up the roots and by planting new mangroves. Now, I'd love to share a brief video to highlight my project. I live in Miami, Florida, along the coast, ground zero for sea level rise. If climate change continues at this rate, in 50 years, our whole city is going to be underwater. Coastline protection is really important to me. Here in South Florida, these mangrove forests can actually play a huge role. I'm Charouhis. I'm 16 years old. My project is called A Million Mangroves. In 2017, Hurricane Irma really
Meet Grammarly Go, your go-to solution for getting quality work done quickly.
affected both my home and my school. And there was even a boat that washed up on my football field. I happened to be learning about climate change in school, and I just felt I had to do something. I felt the need. My action started with just advocacy. I would just tell my friends, try and get them involved and get them to see the real importance of this issue. I started to bring it up in my community. And eventually, I was able to attend different climate conferences around the world and speak on behalf of the youth voice. But then during the pandemic, I bought an old used kayak and was able to explore the mangroves right outside my home. I began to see the beauty in mangroves and realized the importance of these trees. Mangroves protect our coastlines and prevent coastline erosion. They provide a great habitat for organisms, and they take a massive amount of carbon out of the atmosphere, much more than traditional forests or jungles. Unfortunately, there were large amounts of trash in the mangroves. Tons of little trash that people may disregard as unimportant. However, toxins seep into the soil, preventing them from growing and killing them. It's really an issue, and I felt like I had a moral obligation to pick it up. At first, it was just me in a kayak. I cleaned up around 6 miles of mangroves, stretching all the way down to the Keys. I started telling my friends about the mangrove project, and they were really enthusiastic about it, and they encouraged me. They wanted to make a difference too. I began to be more confident. I began to just ask more people to come. Then we got big groups to help us pick up. Every month, I organize a cleanup. Tons of different people around Miami show up. People from my school, my community, my friends. People go out with gloves, a bucket, and some tools and go pick up trash. It's pretty simple, and it's cheap and effective and easy. It's not necessarily a big commitment, and there's actually a fun component in these cleanups, and it's hanging out with your friends and helping out the environment. On top of the cleanups, the other part of the project is the planting. Since the goal is to help at least 1 million mangroves thrive in their environment, what better way to help out than to plant more mangroves myself? First, I pick up the mangrove propagules and grow them for about 1.5 years until they're ready to be transplanted into the earth. I go out at low tide and find a place that's along the shore but not submerged. And so when the tide comes in, the mangroves are watered. I'm experimenting in my lab by grafting 2 mangroves together to try and create a mangrove that withstands Earth's stronger environmental stresses of today, like more acidic oceans and warmer waters. At the beginning, only around 20% of the mangroves survived, but now I'm getting to the point where around 70% survive and are able to grow in these tough conditions. I'd really love to come back one day and see the mangroves that I've planted turn into a mangrove forest. Even a small difference is a difference. Eco-anxiety is what a lot of people my age feel about the environment, that we're already past the point of no return.
I like to have an optimistic outlook. I think that this generation will be the generation to halt climate change and to really make the difference we need. There's no planet B, and I'm not moving to Mars.
Okay, so with that, you guys kind of got a pretty good understanding, a further understanding of my project. And since last summer, when I presented this project, my aim has since then has been to scale it up. And I've involved other youth in restoring mangroves by cleaning up the roots. Currently, I am researching doubling plantings by splicing mangrove propagules in half and then sealing them with biodegradable wax before planting them. And I've presented mangroves as a solution to climate change at the United Nations conferences this summer in Stockholm, Sweden, Bonn, Germany, and Lisbon, Portugal. What I've learned from this project is that the youth can ignite change. I believe hope is the most powerful antidote in the world. The solutions are here. This is a project that youth can do everywhere, even if you are growing a mangrove seedling in your own backyard. So, to leave you guys with this, if I had a message for future leaders, it would be that if we each take individual actions, we can add them up to make the change we need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will. That was so inspiring. I just want to say that we are looking for FXB climate advocates in different communities to work on planting mangroves, so we can work with Will and have, a billion mangrove project and, really plant around the world. It is a real climate solution and something that we can all work towards. We will have an event in Florida in October with 2 other partner organizations with Forces of Nature and FXB and Volo Foundation and Meng to learn about mangroves as a climate solution and to actually plant them in a nursery. So, we present this project to you, not, to inspire you, but also to give you a call to action, things that, you can do with mangroves, but also, in any area that you're interested in. I guess, Will, if there was one kind of piece of advice that you would give to FXB climate advocates, to young people who signed on to Zoom today, who maybe are just starting in the climate space, and and they're hesitant about where to start. It's such a big problem. What advice would you give to them?
Well, at the beginning, of course, I was really scared, and I was scared that I wouldn't make any difference. But then I sort of got to the realization that any difference, whether it's small or big, is a difference. And one small difference can catapult into changing the world. So that's advice that I would give you guys. So don't be afraid and take this step, even though it's hard to get your foot out the door. Take the step.
Karina, I know that you have not opening this to questions generally, but forgive me for interrupting.
Yes, go ahead, Diana. We have about 5-6 minutes.
Sorry. Will, I had just one quick question, and that was, oh gosh, I've lost you. Can you see me?
Yes,
Yep.
Yes, we can see you.
I had one quick question. Do mangroves only grow in tropical climates, or tell us about mangroves and how universal they are, if at all?
Well, mangroves are one of Earth's hardiest plants. What I've noticed is they can grow in a variety of temperatures. They are traditionally found in tropical environments, along the coast as well. But they can also grow in other climates. It's hard. It might be hard to sort of start them off, but they can grow in other climates.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Back to you, Karina.
Well, we'll take one question while we wait for our next speaker to join us. Let's see, who's the brave? If you know how to use Zoom, if you want to raise your hand, I will see you and I will call on you. Jessica Mshama. Hi, Jessica. One of our interns said that she met you at a conference, and so it's really a pleasure to meet you. Welcome.
Oh, wow.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. First of all, congratulations on amazing work that you all are doing in this group. I just have one question for our champion right there. If a person has a community or a club for the youth that would love, youth and children that would love to engage in the action to take in our country, the same in Tanzania, is it possible to collaborate with him and take actions together? Yeah, that's my question.
Go ahead, Will. Can we help plant mangroves in Tanzania?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone can pretty much get involved, like I was saying. It's a pretty straightforward process of planting these trees and planting these mangroves. But yeah, I mean, anyone can get involved, and it's definitely a task that it needs to be done, in my opinion. I think this is nature's #1 solution to halt climate change, as I said previously. But I mean, I think this is the direction we should take. So definitely.
Jessica, and we'll take this forward. That sounds great. Thank you. Anyone else? We do have time for a few more questions. Let's see. If you raise your hand, I will see it. I do also just want to acknowledge that we have really amazing students joining from an environmental club in a school in Rwanda. So you'll see a number of students joining from one camera. So I've been working with their teacher to make sure they're able to join us. And it's just such a privilege to have middle and high school students join the program. So it's really amazing. I know how much work and effort it takes to really get the technology to work. And so we're just so grateful that you're able to be on. Let's see. Any other questions for Will? Yeah, we have people putting in the chat that they're interested in joining. I guess while we wait for our next speaker to join, I'm gonna cold call a few people to introduce themselves. And so I'm sorry that you didn't have notice, but just say your name, your age, where you're from, and just something about how climate change has impacted your community. So I'll start
Sorry,
with
Karina, really quickly before that, I see a question in the chat that I kind of want to address.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Can you read the question? Because I don't.
Yes. How have you managed socioeconomic challenges? And to me, the biggest challenge that I've faced was from being so young compared to all these older people at these conferences, because the United Nations delegate to youth, as I forgot exactly, but it was like, I don't remember exactly, but it was definitely older than 18. And I, being just starting out going to these conferences, I was probably about 14, 13. And so, I mean, it was really scary for me to actually go and talk to some of these people, because I was scared that, they wouldn't necessarily listen to me since I was so young. And I was worried that they maybe felt like I didn't have the knowledge to be on this global stage. But what really got me to overcome this is just practice putting myself in these uncomfortable positions and just talking to as many people as I can in hopes that at least someone will listen. And I found that really effective. So that's my takeaway, and that's my advice.
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you, Will. This was inspiring, and we'll stay in touch, and we'll get a group of advocates who are interested in collaborating with you to take this forward, as we've discussed before. So I know you have to go to work. So thank you so much for joining us from California. Thank you, Will.
Karina, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.